हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, कलये सुन्दराकारं सदैकप्रियदर्शनम् अज्ञाननाशकं देवं सद्गुरुं मुरलीधरं, मुरलीमण्डितकरकमलं मुनिजनमोहनं व्यत्यस्तपादं वनमालाधारिणं प्रेमभक्तमण्डलनित्यकीर्तितं श्रीप्रेमिकवरदम् आश्रयेऽहम्। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय हरये परमात्मने प्रणतक्लेशनाशाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नामसङ्कीर्तनं यस्य सर्वपापप्रणाशनं प्रणामो दुःखशमनः तं नमामि हरिं परम्। श्रीहरये नमः, श्रीहरये नमः, श्रीहरये नमः। गोपिका जीवनस्मरणं गोविन्द गोविन्द। सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। By the benign grace of Lord Sri Hari, our very beloved Sri Madhuri Sakhi Sameta Premikavarada Thakurji, and by the immense kripa of our Sadguru Maharaj, His Holiness Maharanyam Sri Sri Muralidhara Swamiji, we are seeing the greatness of Srimad Bhagavatam. We started with the Bhagavata Mahatmyam from Padma Puranam in our last session. We also saw the uniqueness of Bhagavatam. And the uniqueness, if we can all recollect, was that Bhagavatam is Bhagavan himself. So that's why just like we say, Jai Bolo Krishna Kanhaiya Lal ki Jai, Bolo Radha Rani ki Jai, right? When we say all that, we also say Bolo Bhagavat Bhagavan ki Jai. We hail the greatness of Bhagavatam as Bhagavata Bhagavan. Is it not? See, we all know very famously the 10 avatars of Bhagavan. Usually when we talk about the avatar of Bhagavan, the incarnations of Bhagavan, we generally talk about the Dashavatara, Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Narasimha, Vamana, Parashurama, Rama, Krishna, Balrama and all that, right? So we know the Dashavataras. But Bhagavatam says that Bhagavan's avatara are not limited to just 10. As a matter of fact, Bhagavatam itself describes more than 24 avatars of Bhagavan, and then it goes on to say that Bhagavan's avatara, Bhagavan's incarnations are countless. Avatara hi asankheya. You cannot count the number of avatars because Bhagavan can take any form. As we know, even in Dashavatara, he has taken the form of a fish, he has taken the form of a wild boar, he has taken a very unique form of a man lion. So anything was possible, is it not? If you extend it, we'll understand. It is said that, Pushkar, which is a lake, it is Bhagavan's avatara as a lake. And Naimisharanya is a forest, and it is Bhagavan's avatara as a forest. So a forest, Bhagavan can take the form of a forest, Bhagavan can take the form of a lake, right? Similarly, one of the unique avatars, one of the unique incarnations of Bhagavan is in the form of this Srimad Bhagavatam. That's why Padma Puranam says तेनेयं वाङ्मयीं मूर्तिं प्रत्यक्षा वर्तते हरेः तेनेयं वाङ्मयीं मूर्तिं. The Lord's incarnation in the form of sound is Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is Shabda Rupa Bhagwan. Right? We saw in the last session itself how Bhakyani Shastra Sakshat Radhaiva Arthaha Shri Krishna Evacha. So Radha Krishna Swarupam is this, Yugala Swarupam is this Srimad Bhagavatam. And that is why Sevanat, Shravanat, Pathat, Darshanat, Papanashini. All you have to do is merely just worshipping Bhagavatam. Even that is enough. That's what we saw in the last session. Even that can benefit us so much and make us the recipient of Bhagwan's grace. We can be the recipient of divine grace. Right? That is the greatness of Bhagavatam. All we have to do is have a text of Bhagavatam in our house, in our puja room, and not see it as a mere text or a mere book. See, in our culture, we have this most beautiful thing of respecting everything. Is it not? We feel the divinity in everything around us. We are taught to see divinity in everything. We are taught to respect a river. We are taught to respect a piece of paper. We are taught to respect everything because from a very young age, our culture, our Sanatana Dharma, our religion, it's teaching us to see divinity in everything. Because divinity is there in everything and we are not yet ready to perceive it. So, fake it till you make it. Even if you don't see the divinity in something, there is divinity in it. And so, our Sanatana Dharma makes us, helps us realize that. So, it guides us by telling, start seeing the divinity in everything. When you look at a river, see it as, Ganga Mata, Yamuna Mata. That's how we say, even when we get up from our bed, our scriptures say, before we put our foot down on the floor, we have to join our palms together in Anjali and actually talk to the earth, Mother Earth, Bhumi Mata. And we have to tell her, Amma, I'm really sorry. I'm going to stamp on you today. I'm going to be walking on you. I'm going to be disturbing the peace, on this land by walking and jumping and all that. Please tolerate me. So we wake up with that consciousness that everything has life. Right? That is the beauty. So we are taught to see divinity even in small things. Tulsi plant is divine for us. Ashwatha Vriksha, the tree, is divine for us. Right? We see divinity in everything. So when a mere piece of paper is Saraswati for us, so we do give respect to our textbooks. Anyone from Sanatana Dharma, we cannot tolerate anyone stamping on a piece of paper. Because for us, it is Saraswati Mata. It's not that we can't tolerate, it is like we are very pained to see that. Right? That's how we are taught. But this goes one step further. It is not even just a mere paper or a text. Right? It is Bhagavan himself. That's the beauty of Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? So, that's how Bhagavatam is unique. That's how Bhagavatam is great. But Padma Purana doesn't stop there. It also tells us how this Bhagavatam can actually save the worst sinner in this world. So does it mean that Bhagavatam is only for people who have sinned so much? Is it only for sinners? No. In the very same story, Bhagavatam also shows how it can emancipate a common man. Someone with all the troubles that a common man would have. Someone with all the desires. Someone who is born as a common man but he learns from what life teaches him and understands what he has to attain finally. So it shows that also here, and doesn't stop there. It also shows how Bhagavatam is relished by great Mahatmas. So it is for the worst of the worst. It is for the best of the best. It's also for the middle ones, the common ones. That's the beauty. And Padma Puranam shows us all of this in the form of a beautiful story. It starts on the banks of Tungabhadra river. And we all know Tungabhadra river flows in the state of Karnataka, and it's a very beautiful river. And on the banks of this Tungabhadra river, there was a village, and all of them in the village were very pious and very well read, very civilized. At the same time, they were all, following the most righteous path. And amongst these, there was this Brahmana called Atmadeva. And this Atmadeva was very rich. He was a Brahmin, but he was very rich. And in spite of being very rich, uh, according to his dharma, he led his life as per what scriptures prescribed for him as a bhikshu. And he had a very beautiful wife called Dundhuli. Dundhuli also was from a very nice family, actually. But she had her own quirks. She was a very, angry person, and she would pick fight on the smallest things, and she loved gossiping. She had all this. But Atmadeva, on the other hand, he was very pious. If he walks down the street, people would think, Dvitiya iva Bhaskaraha. They would think, oh my God, has sun come down and is sun walking on the streets? That's how he was shining. He was shining like that because of the tapas he had, because of the dharma that he followed. He led such a righteous life that it showed on his face. See, when we are very pure of our mind, it reflects on our face, is it not? So he was shining like that. That is how Atmadeva was. But Dundhuli was not like that. She had her own quirks. So they had all this fortune, they had all this money, they had everything, but they were not very happy. Why? Because in spite of having all that one can ask for, they did not have a child. See, for a married couple, they want a child for many reasons. Just having a child is a joy in itself, because just looking at the face of the child, even if we look at the face of a child that's totally a stranger to us, we still want to go to the child and pick the child and fondle it, and we want to keep it for some time and all. So there is no one who does not love a child. And more so for Atmadeva, because he thought, I am so rich, I have everything, I am following this dharma. If I don't have a child, if I go issueless, what will happen to all this money? What will happen to my dharma? There should be someone who should be carrying this forward in my lineage. And he felt very bad that it was not happening. So they waited for a very long time to see if everything gets settled in the natural course of their life. It didn't happen. Finally, he took the advice of the learned ones, and he started giving lot of gifts. He started doing dhanam. Right? He gave away lot of land, a lot of gold, all the fortune he had. He spent half of his fortune in gifting things away. He thought by doing this dharma, maybe I'll get a child. But all that happened was he lost half of his wealth, but he did not beget any child. So he felt very bad. One day he felt so depressed that he was not having a child, that he just did not even want to stay in the house. He just kept walking aimlessly. He walked into the forest, and he didn't even realize how far into the forest he had gone. He did not have anything with him. He felt very thirsty and very tired. He looked around, he saw a stream of water flowing there. So he sat on the banks of that stream. He rested for some time, and he was brooding over his fate. He was thinking, oh, what is wrong with my life? Why, when so many people have children, why can't I have just one child? Why is this happening to me? Typically, when something doesn't happen the way we want, the first question that comes to our mind is, why is this happening to me? But the beauty is, if something good happens to us, we never question by saying, why is this happening to me? Is it not? But this is the nature. And he was feeling so tired, so depressed. He did not even get up from the place. He sat there on the bank of the stream for almost 50 minutes to 1 hour. He was there. And while he was sitting there, another sadhu came to the same place. He was also wandering in the forest and he was looking for water. He saw this water, so he came there and he saw this Atmadeva sitting with his face hung down, and it was ridden with sorrow. You could see it. And sadhu, that sannyasi was, he felt very bad for this common man. He saw this Atmadeva, he knew he was a grihastha, he was a family man. So he thought something was troubling him. So he went to Atmadeva on his own accord and he inquired. He asked Atmadeva, what is, my son tell me, he didn't know he was Atmadeva, of course. So I said, my son, tell me, why are you looking so worried? Why do you look so depressed? What are you doing in this forest alone, sitting here like this? Tell me everything. The moment Atmadeva saw this sadhu and how kind he was, how compassionate he was so thrilled because he thought this is God sent. All my dharma has borne fruit in the form of this sadhu sangha. And when we get the sadhu sangha, we should know to make the best use of it. Unfortunately for Atmadeva, he was so bogged down by the fact that he did not have an issue, he did not have a child. That was the foremost thing in his mind, is it not? So he could not think of anything else. When he saw this sannyasi, he started crying, he was weeping, he started wailing. Sometimes when you see someone is taking pity on you, and if you want to keep that sympathy on, sometimes you overdo your sorrow, is it not? You may not be actually crying so much, but then you start crying a lot when you see someone who's ready to console you. So here Atmadeva did the same thing. When the sadhu came to him, he started weeping loudly and he said, what can I say of my life? I am so cursed. My entire life is so cursed. You know what? I am so unfortunate, I am so unlucky that even the cows in my house, they do not, bear a calf. They do not give birth to a calf. They don't bear a child. Even if I plant a tree, it will not give any fruit. That is how wretched my life is. That is how wretched and cursed I am. So, I have everything in this world except a child. And what will I do with everything without a child? And he started weeping. This sannyasi was a great Mahatma. So, he looked at Atmadeva for some time. He closed his eyes and immediately he said, don't worry. Don't worry. He said, why? I can see very clearly. He said, what? He said, you will not have any child, not just in this Janma, but for 7 more births, you will not have any child. The moment he said that, Atmadeva was shattered. He thought, my God, why do you have to say something like this? Maybe it's not, maybe I won't have a child in this Janma, but now that you have told that I won't have a child in 7 Janmas to come, maybe it was not to be so, but because you are a Jnani, because you are a Mahatma, your words might come true. Why do you have to say something like that? He said, no, I am not making this up. I am seeing your fate. I can literally read the lines on your forehead. It's written there. And why do you think you need a child? Why do you think you will be happy if you have a child? He says, Santate sagaro dukkham avapangav puratata. He gives a list of people who suffered because of children. So there are many of them who thought they'll be happy with a child, but finally, sometimes it happens, is it not? You want a child, but sometimes when the child gets sick, it is not that a child brings only joy. A child can bring sorrow also. When the child falls sick, we are very sad. We are upset. We are very worried. Is it not? When the child grows up and it maybe misbehaves, it does not listen to the words of the parents, then again it can cause sorrow. So he gives a list of things that can happen if you have a child. He gives the negative side of having a child and he says, Re munchadya kutumbasham sannyase sarvatha sukham. Give up your family life, come behind me as a sannyasi, you will be happy. Atmadeva thought, oh my God, this sadhu is not that sadhu after all. He seems to be, wanting to have a chela. Maybe he wants to have a disciple to follow him. And that's why he's, suggesting I take sannyasa and come behind him. So when he thought, he said, no. He said, no. He said, what? Why are you even suggesting sannyasa to me? To me, someone who is actually craving for a child. In this state of mind, if I become a sannyasi, I will be doing injustice to that sannyasa dharma. Is it not? I cannot control my desires. If I have to take up sannyasa, I have to have so much of dispassion. I must have so much of vairagya. I should be able to leave everything behind. I cannot do that right now. I am not in that state of mind. So please do me a favor. Don't ask me to take sannyasa. But immediately he fell at the feet of that sadhu and he said, but please, I beg of you. I know you can do this. If you bless me to have a child, I can have a child. My karma, my fate, they would mean nothing. You can change it if you want to. Please, I beg you, please change my fate. Please, somehow, bless me that I should have a child. When Atmadeva was so desperate, the sadhu saw that he was so desperate, immediately the sadhu thought, okay, sometimes when we come to satsang and when we meet our Guru Maharaj, he may give us some advice that may not be to our taste, right? And we might actually resist it because we have some idea and we think this is what would be good for us. But then we come and ask, when we come to our Guru Maharaj and we ask for his suggestion, he tells something that's very different. We can't accept it, we resist it and we want him to change his opinion. Sometimes when we do not listen to what our Guru Maharaj tells, at that time, because it feels very uncomfortable for us, because it's not what we really desire, he would also let it go. He'll say, okay, you do it your own way. But later we'll realize that we'll finally have to do exactly what he asked us to do in the first place. But the only difference is, had we listened to him in the first place, we would not have to go through much trouble. But if we do not obey, if we do not accept his words of advice in the very first time and we resist it and go our own way, finally we have to come to the way that our Guru Maharaj showed us, but after going through a lot of troubles. That's what is going to happen in the story also to Atmadeva. He resisted what the sadhu said. He fell at his feet, he compelled him. And finally, Mahatmas, if they have enough tapas, they can change our fate also. Generally, they don't choose to, do that. They let the karma play. Because interference is not very good, because karma has to be balanced. It cannot be cancelled or it cannot be made void. It has to be only balanced in some other form. So they do not try and do it, but it's not that they cannot. We have to understand the difference. It's not that they cannot, but they do not. Right? So finally, the sannyasi said okay, and he took a beautiful mango fruit, and he closed his eyes. He did some japa. He gave it to Atmadeva. He said, you ask your wife to eat this. If she eats it, she will get a child. Atmadeva he was ecstatic. He thought, oh, beautiful, because he was so confident. We have got the blessing of Mahatma. This can never fail. I'm going to have a child. He prostrated unto that Mahatma. He took leave of him. He ran from the forest. He came back to his village. He came to his wife Dunduli, and he was so happy. She didn't understand. She said, why are you so happy? Immediately he said, oh, you know what? Look at this, what I have. She said, it's just one mango. Why did not get two mangoes? We are two of us here. He said, oh, forget it. I did not buy it anywhere. This was blessed by a sadhu and given to me. He has said that if you eat it, we'll get a child. See, the whole problem for Dunduli was, she never wanted a child. Only Atmadeva was always insisting on having a child. Dunduli did not want to have a child because she, as we said, she had her own quirks. She was very weird. She thought that, see, if I have a child, if I bear a child, I may gain weight and I may not look good. I may, I lose my beauty. And the child, when I have a child in my womb and when I have to give birth to the child, the labor pain will be so devastatingly painful. I don't want to go through that. And what can we say? When I have a child, maybe I will die in the process. She was very frightened about all that. So she didn't actually want to she didn't want to give birth to a child. See, it's not that she didn't want to have a child. She didn't want to give birth to a child. She might have been okay with adopting. That's how she was. So when he said that if you eat this mango, you will unfailingly bear a child, she got very frightened. But she smiled and she pretended to be happy in front of Atmadeva. And she took that mango in her hand. He said, beautiful, beautiful. I'll eat today certainly. It's a blessed one. I'll keep it in the sanctum sanctorum in our puja room. And then I will eat it later. Atmadeva was very happy. He said, yes, please do that. And he had gone out. Now that he was happy, he went on with his business. And Dunduli had a sister. She came to visit her. And Dunduli was very sad. Her sister asked, what is wrong with you now? And she told the whole story. She showed the mango and she said, Atmadevan says that if I eat this mango, I'll bear a child. I don't want to bear a child. But how can I say that to my husband? Because he is desperate to have a child. What do I do now? Her sister was very shrewd. She was actually bearing a child at that time. She was in the family way. No, she was pregnant with a child at that time. So she suggested, she said, see, I'm just carrying this child and it will be born in a few months. So what we can do is, you don't eat this mango. Instead, I already have children. When I give birth to this child, I'll secretly give the child to you. And you tell Atmadeva that this is your child. All you have to do is give some money to my husband and he will shut his mouth. And in the meanwhile, while you are carrying, you inspire Atmadeva to go on a pilgrimage for a year so that he has no clue about what is happening. She said, all that is, then Dunduli was very happy with this idea. She said, all that is fine, but what do I do with the mango? And the sister said, oh, I have a brilliant idea. All you have to do is throw this mango in the cow shed, right? And let us see. Let's see if a cow eats it. And if it is really so powerful, let's see if a cow gets a child. And they laughed on it and they threw it in the cow shed. And the cow actually ate it. When Atmadeva came back, he saw the fruit was gone and she said, I ate it. And then she said, see, this is something that we have been blessed with now. So we should not take this casually. You please go on a pilgrimage for a year and you can come back after the childbirth. That will do good to both us and the child. Atmadeva was very gullible. He also agreed and he went on a pilgrimage. And as per the sisters, the two sisters' plan, the sister of Dunduli, we got a child and she sold it to Dunduli. When Atmadeva came, she said, I had this child was born a bit early, but this is our child. And Atmadeva believed it and he named him Dundukari. But there was a surprise waiting. What was it? 3 months after Dundukari was supposedly born, the cow that had eaten that mango fruit, it gave birth to a child. Right? It gave birth to a child, not a calf, but a child. And that little baby boy had the ears of a cow alone. The rest of it was all a human body. And everyone was absolutely surprised. They all thought, oh my God, Atmadeva did not even have one child. And now see, all the devatas are so gracious on him. Even his cow in the cow shed is giving birth to a baby boy. See, Nagyatam tad rahasyam tu kenapi vidiyogata. Will not people actually be very surprised if they see a cow giving birth to a human child? But all of them took it as a, very, very normal thing. They said, oh, he is very lucky. Why? Padmapuranam says, that is how it was meant to be, it seems. It was destined that these people don't even think of it as something different. And Atmadeva was very happy. He named that child as Gokarna because he had the ears of a cow. And he brought up both Dundukari and Gokarna in the same way. But then there is a difference, is it not? Because Gokarna was born out of divine blessing. Dundukari was not so. So Dundukari grew up to be a very, very, very vile person, while Gokarna grew up to be a great Mahatma. And Atmadeva just did not understand how this was possible because according to his belief, Dundukari was supposed to be the one who was blessed by the Mahatma, and Atmadeva was, and Gokarna was only a by chance child. He didn't even know how that happened, because he didn't know the backstory of what Dunduli did. Is it not? So he was very surprised at how wild this Dundukari was. From a very young age, he used to kill children, it seems. He would go to the mother and he would say, can I have the baby for some time? And he would take the baby and throw the child in the well. And he would hurt everybody and he would rob people, from a very young age. And he started squandering the fortune of Atmadeva. As he grew up, it was only getting worse. And one day, when he had spent off all the money that Atmadeva had, he started beating up Atmadeva and Dunduli, and he was asking for more money. Atmadeva could not bear this. He thought, what is this? How much have I prayed to have a child? How I begged that sannyasi to bless me with a child, and finally what have I got? I have not got someone who walks the path of dharma or would be supportive to me, but I have got such a vile boy who's bent upon even killing me. He wailed and he did not know what to do. He said, what do I do? Where do I go? What do I do? When he came out, he saw Gokarna was sitting there and his face was shining with the knowledge that he had, with divinity. And Atmadeva just fell at his feet and said, Gokarna, what do I do? When Dundukari literally kicked his father out of the house, Atmadeva, came falling out, and Gokarna looked at him and said, Appa, what happened? And even at that moment, Atmadeva says, my son is beating me. And Gokarna gave a wry smile and he said, he is beating you and still you call him my son. That is called Abhimana, is it not? You still call him my son? Give up everything. Gokarna gives him a upadesha. He says, give up everything. Don't be with this family anymore. Take this as a lesson, opportunity, to have some dispassion, some vairagya. This is what life is. Go to the forest and do what? He gives Srimad Bhagavatam to him and he says, chant, read, do the parayana of just the Dashamaskanda every day and you will be saved. And Atmadeva took that advice. He left his house immediately. He went to the forest and he opened Bhagavatam. He started reading the Dashamaskanda, which is primarily only Krishna Leela, and he kept reading it. And Padmapurana says, just by reading, Dashamasya Pathat, just by reading the Dashamaskanda, Atmadeva attained the feet of Lord Krishna himself. So the story tells us of what can happen to a common man who went through the life as like every one of us. He got married, he led a good life, and then he wanted a child. He did all that he could to get a child. Finally, he was blessed with a child. But then, that child itself became a reason for his vairagya. Now, remember what that sannyasi said in the forest? He said, forget everything. Child will give only sorrow to you. Your karma is like that. So, it's better that you give up everything and take up sannyasa. He did not listen to him. He came home with a fruit. Finally, he got a child, and that child did so much himsa. He gave him so much sorrow that finally Atmadeva did exactly what the sannyasi asked him to do in the very first place. He took up sannyasa, he gave up everything, went to the forest, and he attained. That's what we said when a guru, when a Sadguru gives us an upadesha, even if it is not to our taste, even if it is not something that we are comfortable with, even if it is not something that we actually want, we have to just go by it, because otherwise, anyway, we'll have to come to do that, but we may have to go through many troubles like Atmadeva did. He suffered at the hands of his son. He went through the worst part of his life, and then only he went the path of, he took to the path of attaining Bhagwan. So, this story does not stop here, but because we have run out of time, I'm going to stop the story here, where we have seen how Bhagavatam, merely doing the parayana of just the Dashamaskanda, because it is Krishna Leela completely, Atmadeva, a common man, attained Bhagavan. In the next session, we'll continue with this story and we'll See what happens to Dundukari and Gokarna, the other two extremes. Atmadeva was the middleman. He was the common man. Dundukari represents the worst of all the sinners, and Gokarna represents the most evolved soul. Right? So let us see what happens in their life also in the next session. कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै श्रीमन्नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे. गोपिका जीवनस्मरणं गोविन्दा गोविन्दा. सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय.